Hey everybody, here is part 2 of our little lesson on lenses today. So today, this little video here is really more just about looking at some of the applications, some of the ways that we use lenses to figuratively and literally open your eyes to some of the different ways that lenses have been sort of brought into society, ways that we different apply them, and some of the things are built into. Some of them are pretty obvious, but it's really mostly just meant to be sort of a survey to get you be thinking about where lenses are and how we use them in our world. One of the silly ones, I didn't even put it in here and I totally forgot to, is even the simplest thing of using lenses in the headlights of your cars that we use. If you look real close at the front of your car right now, you will see that there are little tiny lenses in there to help focus the light, or even in a flashlight. We use lenses in there to help focus those beams of light. So they're all over the place. And this is just to kind of give you some ideas about how our eyes work and how the natural lenses in our bodies work, as well as some of these sort of technological examples of what lenses are. So hope you enjoy it. Like I said, it's meant to be sort of an overview, not particularly technological or anything along those lines, just some of the basics on how you work. So basic right here, some of you I know have had anatomy class, some of you haven't, but in order to understand lenses, I want you to understand a little bit about how the eye works and some of the different parts about the eye. So this is an eyeball looking that direction. So this part up here is the cornea. That's that clear layer that's on the outside. And then you've got right here, this part, these little pinkish parts, that's the iris. That's the actual part of your eye that's colored. So people say blue eyes or brown eyes or green eyes or whatever. It's the iris itself that functions like an aperture, and it literally goes from smaller to larger and then smaller again through the function of a variety of different muscles that are around in the iris itself. But that's, like I said, that's the blue part or the brown part of your eye, whether or not you have pigments that are in there. And then directly behind that, behind the iris, is the lens, and it's a naturally produced part of your body that you actually make. It's really cool that your body can make a type of clear plastic almost, and that this is found in all different kinds of species. Throughout not only mammals, but down into the insect world, and even things like cephalopods, like octopi, have really, really complex eye lenses and eyeballs. It's really cool to see this. If you're at all interested in the biomechanics of lenses, it's pretty interesting. So no, you've got this little sort of plasticky, flexible lens that's in here, and then it's suspended by these little muscles called ciliary muscles. And these muscles literally compress and contract, can stretch it and relax that lens, so it can physically change shape. And you can feel this when you're, say, reading a book, especially like when you get tired. Like if you're reading late at night and you lose that ability to focus, it's because those ciliary muscles are actually fatigued, and they can't stretch that lens far enough to be able to focus up close. And you can also feel it when you like look up and look down, when you change your focus, when you look at something really close and then you lift your eyes up, and it takes just a second to refocus on something that's far away. That's the action of these lenses, or these ciliary muscles, in coordination with your brain, tightening and relaxing those muscles so that you can actually focus that image correctly, depending on what distance that you're at. So again, that lens literally deforms its shape depending on whether you're focusing on something up close or whether you're focusing on something way off in the distance. It's kind of cool to be able to think about what that feels like and to be able to feel that motion to it. In any case, like I said, you got the little muscles in there. Then you got this jelly that's in the middle. That's pretty much just meant to give the eyeball some physical shape, keep it inflated, so to speak, so that you have this physical distance. And then on the back, you've got the retina back there where those images are focused. And those retina is full of color-seeking, color-sensitive cells, as well as light intensity-sensitive cells, rods and cones. And all of that information gets funneled through the optic nerve up to your brain. So that's kind of the idea of sort of how the eye is working. So the lens itself is all I'm really talking about in this particular side here and how that works. One of the common issues that we have with lenses, well, there's two common issues. One of them is pictured actually in this little image up on the right, this little baby that's up here. If you take a look at the two different eyes of the baby, and why I put this on here is because you can see that the baby's left eye has that dark pupil. And again, a pupil is literally just a hole between the layers of the lens, and you're actually seeing through the lens into the darkness in the back of the eye because there's no light inside the eye. And that baby's right eye is cloudy looking, and that's a cataract. So this particular child was just born with an issue in this one lens, and that's cloudy in there. That if you have sometimes really old dogs, especially, will get this, or older adults will get cataracts, and it's just due to a variety of different things. A lot of it's actually exposure to ultraviolet radiation from the sun can cause this clear, transparent material to get cloudy over time, just like lots of old plastics get cloudy over time with exposure to oxygen, and not oxygen in this case, but oxygen and ultraviolet radiation causes it to get cloudy. So like I said, in this particular case, this infant here has a cataract due to a developmental defect as opposed to an age-related defect. But so probably this little dude here will maybe get you can actually have lens transplants. It's something that you can actually do. Kind of wild to think about cataract surgery and getting a different lens. How wild is that? You could do surgery on the eyeball and take the lens out and put a different lens in there. It's insane. So love that. Anyway, a lot of people don't have eyeballs that are shaped correctly. Obviously, I am one of those people, but a lot of you are in that range as well. And so I wanted to kind of briefly mention what happens with things like myopia and hyperopia. You call that nearsightedness and farsightedness. A lot of people with normal vision don't know what this feels like. So if you're nearsighted, it's exactly what it means. You can see things close to you, but you cannot see things far away. And so especially with people they have to wear their glasses for driving, for example, it usually means that you can see things that are close to you, but the things that are off in the distance, like signs, again, you can imagine trying to drive if that's your visual level up there. Hard to see where you're going, right? This is more what my eyesight is like, if you guys wonder. Super blurry. I have really, really poor eyesight. My focal point, I can see things within about 6 inches, depending on the size in front of my eyes. Text, it's a couple inches. And so for me to try to drive without glasses on, it's not safe. Yes, I can see objects. I mean, you can see that there's big objects out there, just like you can see a tail light. You can see that there's sort of a stoplight up there, but any sort of acuity is completely lost. Opposite, people that are farsighted, they have trouble reading or focusing things that are close to them. And again, you can kind of see up in here, sort of the example, what that would look like, where you could see you for driving fine, but you'd have a really difficult time seeing your dash. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to necessarily focus on the radio or like the speedometer or something along those lines. But you can see things off in the distance, or you have it hard, you can't see people's faces. A lot of times older adults, like anybody over about the age of 40 or so, starts to develop hyperopia. That's why they have to wear reading glasses. Just in terms of you see the old people, they're holding stuff like this to try to read it, right? Because it's their focal distance has moved off into a different spot of their range. And the reason why that has to do with a couple of different things, two different factors. With young people, if you've been wearing glasses since you were younger, it's usually because the shape of your eyeball is either too flat or too long. It's either elongated or squished short, which is why, when people squint, they're literally trying to deform the shape of their eyeball, the cornea and the lens that's behind there. Or like when you pull your eyes funny and it makes that funny shape to it, everything kind of goes blurry. It's because you're physically deforming the shape of your eye and how the light's traveling through there. So you can kind of see the two on here. The top one is nearsightedness. Usually your eyeball is a little bit too long. And so you get a focal point, the lens's focal point is in front of the retina, as opposed to people with farsightedness, the eyeball is too short. And so the actual focal point of the natural lens is behind the retina. And so you correct these with lenses, either converging or diverging lenses, just depending on what you need to do. So if your focal distance, your focal point is too close based on the lens, then you would use a diverging lens to kind of spread that out just a little bit. And that's what actually my types of lenses are, a slight type of a diverging lens, as opposed to reading glasses or magnifying glasses are the kinds that will actually change it with a converging lens. They'll bring it a little bit closer together so that you can actually focus on that image. And then there's different amounts of divergence and convergence that you can use, which is the different prescriptions that you'd use for these, the different kinds of thickness. For older folks, by the way, it's not that their eyeballs are changing shape, but it's the lens itself, like I said, is changing shape, or its flexibility, its ability to stretch and flex to see that up close is what's actually being affected there. But this is one of the other reasons why a lot of times teenagers or young, tweenagers in that range start to need glasses. It's because you're going through those big growth spurts where all of a sudden your body is changing shape, and it can actually change the shape of your eyeball. And so you could have had normal vision all the way through childhood, and then all of a sudden you're 15, you're like, dude, why do I have to need glasses all of a sudden? It's not probably because you were reading in the dark. That's not it. It's usually just because your body is changing shape. It's a type of growth pain, if you want to think of it that way. And then the last thing I want to mention about this particular part of it is that concept of astigmatism. I know a lot of you guys have that. Astigmatism just means that you have irregular shaped lenses for whatever reasons. Either the lenses or the combination of the lenses in the cornea, you end up with multiple focal lengths that you can't get everything to focus one place or the other. So you have a little bit more of an interesting problem for an ophthalmologist to try to solve for you, where you're trying to bring the different different lens ranges together so that they can all focus at the same time. So it's kind of like looking through wavy glass a little bit, where you can see through it and certain parts are fine and certain parts aren't fine. That's kind of what astigmatism is sort of related to. So what's really cool is how we fix this. I just want to mention this, bringing it back to the concept of index of refraction. That index of refraction, they have now developed really high-tech materials to create lenses from so they can be thinner. When I was a kid, I used to get migraine headaches because my lenses were so damn thick. In order to get the amount of refraction necessary to correct my vision, the old classic Coke bottle lenses, super thick, super heavy, would pull on my head, pull on my ears, and I'd get really bad headaches from wearing it. And now they can be much thinner because they've actually created these different indices of refraction. You can see the 1.49, 1.59, 1.67. That's the index of refraction. That's how strongly these materials can actually bend light. So you need less material to bend it even more. And then if you have a prescription, prescriptions are given values, either plus or minus something. So reading glasses are in the +1 or 2 range, like you go buy them at Walmart. But if you're talking about nearsighted, you have nearsighted ranges in the minuses, -4, 6, 8, something along those lines. If you're really farsighted, then you'd have a magnifier like a +4, +6. My prescription ranges are in the 7 to 8 to 9 range, up in this range. So joy. So anyway, just as a thought about what that is. So again, index of refraction relates directly to correction of vision. So just a little bit of an aside. And what's really cool now is that we've actually made certain types of materials that when you put them close to your eye, you can actually put the lens directly on your eyeball. Contact lenses are miraculous pieces of plastic and glass that you can use. There's lots of different types of them that are out there, but they literally lay directly on top of the cornea. And so you want to make sure they've got the right shape. And this is why I've talked with some of you before, that if you are wearing overnight lenses or disposable lenses, make sure to take them out at night. This cornea, it needs oxygen. It's meant to be able to exchange moisture with its eyeball environment, so to speak. So make sure to take your contact lenses out and clean them, because once you get bacteria underneath that surface, that's a really great place for bacteria to grow. You can get infections in your cornea, which is obviously not a good thing. This white part up here is the sclera, the white of your eye. You can get conjunctivitis, which is the pinkness of your eyeball, from different types of bacterial or viral infections that gather up in there. So just be really careful about that. This is literally a way that bacteria have a real easy entry into your head, really close to your brain. You need to take care of your contact lenses and take care of your eyeballs more than you think. Don't be putting these dirty fingers, licking your fingers, putting them in, ew, gross. Make sure you stay clean on there. And cool thing that they've got now is they're actually starting to make, and this is not very far out, literally binocular contact lenses that are actually auto-focusing, can either impart day vision or night vision. Some of them are thinking that they may be able to correct color vision issues and be able to do even more like telephoto lenses, some of the crazy stuff like you see like Tony Stark, kind of stuff where you can see the heads-up display. They're actually getting very close to this, to being able to create a contact lens that is powered and can actually have variable indices of refraction. So what a cool invention that is. And again, they're not too far off on that. All right, more of the traditional stuff. And I'm going to buzz through these last ones really quick. I'm not going to spend nearly as much time on this one because I know y'all can look up information on this depending on what your area of interest is. And so part of our performance assessment this week is going to be to go find one of these things that you're interested in and to go learn some more about one of these applications of lenses. And it can be the eye part, the biological medical side of it, or it can be one of these physical things. I'm also going to ask you a question to reflect upon, which is sort of how you see your experience in online learning through the lens of learning, so to speak. So sort of a pun, but just have you think about how our lives have changed as a result of this online learning experience. So anyway, cameras, in terms of what they do, they've got some very simple lenses to it. If you think about even a camera obscura, which is a pinhole camera, doesn't even need a lens. It literally just uses a tiny hole that will function as the lens, and you have to have the plate in the right spot to be able to focus that image. And if you've seen oldie time movies like this where they have these bellows, well, that's how you'd move the lens close together. There's a lens up in front, there's the film in the back, and so you literally stretch it out or compress it to be able to focus the image on that screen to kind of get that real image onto the film. Nowadays, we've got actually more complicated ones. I'll show you one on the next page. Series of lenses, and oftentimes a mirror. This was the old CLR type things where you'd actually take the picture and there's a little mirror that flips up to actually project the lens up to the image up to the top to where you can see it. So these are the old kind of cameras. We have to look through them. Like probably Miss Lincoln still uses some of these in her classes, the old film cameras. Even some of the digital cameras have something kind of like this, but it's kind of cool that you've got in here pretty much everything that we've been talking about, right? You've got lenses, you've got mirrors, and you've got prisms up in here. So you've got reflection, refraction, and diffraction coming through all at the same time. And the modern lenses are just brilliant. Modern cameras, when you take a look at some of these really cool digital cameras and the lenses they've got, the ways that you can do like the auto focusing and the zoom, and then where you've got macro lenses and telephoto lenses and all that stuff. They're talking about multiple series of lenses of all of these different types of shapes in here. And that's why I wanted to put this on there so you can see how the different varieties of things that are in there. And it's really pretty incredible. Don't ever take apart a camera lens unless you really want to make an expensive mistake. But there's some really cool series of how they do this, how they change all these focal lengths, focal distances, et cetera, to get all this through there and then to be able to kind of see it through the screen. And again, this is not digital lenses, but even if you talk about the lenses like on your new modern iPhones, like your iPhone 10 or whatever it is, how they use the different lens combinations to be able to make these different effects, and then combine it with digital enhancement. It's actually pretty incredible how we create these lenses. I wanted to put this up here real quick just so you can get that idea of telephoto. If you've played with cameras at all, I know Miss Lincoln has, a lot of people deal with this, but that focal length, the way you're looking at it and how you combine those together, these are all the same object that's on here, just whether you're focusing it from zooming in towards it or away. And so that the distance, is it a narrow, thin beam of focus or is it a wide, flat beam? And so you've got a real different range of how that collapses. This dude right here actually just recently did a sequence on the different portrait lenses, whether it's a 20 millimeter, 35, or like I think it's a 50 behind here, and how that actually changes how it either elongates or flattens the view, just depending on the camera lens to it. So it's interesting that you can focus way out, but then you lose that depth of field. You're focusing on one thing as opposed to everything to it. And then there's all kinds of other things that you can do, fisheye lenses and all that kind of stuff, where you do an ultra wide angle and all that. So last couple of things that's on here. Binoculars is a way for us to use a series of lenses that actually will magnify things that are far away. So it's very similar to what a camera does. But again, you've got a couple of different types of binoculars that are out there. And again, if you're interested in this, feel free to look into it. But there's a couple of different prisms that are used to change the path of the light that comes through there, so that you're looking through the eyepiece. Most ones now have ocular pieces that you can change the focus from here, as well as the lenses that are way out there. You want to have the lenses out in the front. The objective lenses are the ones that are responsible for being really large to collect light. If your objective lenses aren't very big, the images get very dim and it's kind of hard to focus. So you want to bring in as much light as you can from a wide variety and then focus it so that you can kind of see really far away, but yet not lose all of that energy, that light energy that's coming in. A lot of you guys have had experience using microscopes. And again, with microscopes, again, you've got an ocular lens that's up at the top here. You've got a sequence of objective lenses down here. Now, these do the opposite, right? You're trying to make something that's very, very small and very close look quite a bit bigger. So like a microscope and binoculars have similar types of lenses, but sort of assembled in the reverse order. So in this case, you're trying to make this at something tiny appear big. Here's an example of what that ray diagram looks like. You've got a really tiny close object, here it is. And then you're going through the objective lens that's close to it on the stage, and then there's your eyepiece lens, and it actually creates, it's kind of cool, this massive inverted virtual image. So you can kind of see what that sort of looks like as you peek through there. Again, a sequence of events on this one is kind of cool. There's a variety of different microscopes that's out there. And now we even have microscopes like electron microscopes, fluorescent microscopes, a variety of other ones that don't even just use visible light, but then use computers to assist with non-visible types of light to even go beyond what our natural eyes can see. So different types of microscopes are actually really incredible as well. And then here's the last one for us, telescopes, right? From focusing on things that are super close to focusing on things that are super far. Telescopes used to be just almost like a binoculars, where you'd have a couple of different lenses. Nowadays, telescopes combine lenses with big mirrors as well. And so especially things like the Hubble, which is this one that's up here, they have a giant collecting mirror, an objective mirror, as well as a lens that's coming in. So that allows you to collect a lot more light and then focus it through an eyepiece, which is really cool. So just to kind of show you how quickly some of these advantages are, this is as much as we knew of Pluto in 1993, which is pretty close to, not that far before when you guys were born, about 10 years before we were born. And now we've improved the quality of our telescopes, not only the lenses and the mirrors, but then the digital enhancement that we can now actually see what the surface of Pluto looks like, which is actually pretty incredible, in about 20, 25 years or so, which is kind of neat. And then this is one of the many images that was produced by the Hubble Space Telescope, which is pretty cool. The story of the Hubble telescope is pretty awesome. So if you're interested in space, that would be a really cool thing to take a look at. And again, part of your performance assessment is to pick one of these lens technologies and kind of do a little bit of a project on it. Not a big project, but a little bit of background, like, oh, this is cool. But this is a colorized assisted view of one of the images that was produced. This is not the actual real color, but one of the views of one of the big nebulas that's out in space. It's pretty cool. I can't remember if that's Horsehead Nebula or which one I picked. So anyway, just a way of looking at some of these applications of lenses, all based on that concept of refraction, bending light intentionally, either through evolution, like in our eyeballs, or through the actual lens grinding and mirror grinding experiences that has allowed us to see not only massive items that are incredibly far away, but really, really small items that are also technically close, but otherwise, conceptually really far away, right? When you're looking down into a cell, something like that. So there you have it. Some things about lenses and some different applications. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. And again, end of the lesson. So time to go outside. I would like you to think about how you are seeing your world through different types of lenses, whether they're the lenses in your cameras, the lenses in your eyeballs, lenses through binoculars, even the lenses on your headlights. And think about all the different ways that we literally see our world and how we focus our attention and our understanding through the different lenses of our experience. Kind of a metaphor, but go with it. Okay? Get outside, guys. Go enjoy it. Have a great day. See ya.